5 minutes and counting.
There's been another mass shooting in America. This time in a
7.2 magnitude earthquake struck the South Pacific just after noon Friday local time, triggering a tsunami warning for Fiji, Vanuatu, and New Caledonia. The tremor occurred at a depth of 6.2 miles. The quake's epicenter was 68 miles east of Isle Hunter, New Caledonia. There have been no immediate reports of damage or injuries.
Off the road, keep watching. This is near Clinton, Louisiana. There it goes. Now, you guys, if a semi can be swept off the road with the little bit of water that you see running out over it there, don't you think your vehicle can be too? It's a powerful lesson as this flood emergency is ongoing in Louisiana. Zachary, Louisiana, that school bus was full of kids, went off the road, and we already have reports of a 68-year-old man in Zachary that did pass away while trying to escape his home from the floodwaters. Now, these are the current amounts that we've seen over the last 2 days. We're nearing 20 inches across parts of Louisiana. Baton Rouge in at about 17 inches of rain so far. Near New Orleans, about 10 inches. Mississippi not left out of the mix, though. Flash flood emergency ongoing there. This is in Centerville, Mississippi, where you can see that water flowing around homes. Now, the governor did issue a state of emergency because of the numerous flash flood emergencies that are going on. The bad news is that this rain is going to continue. This is an unusual extratropical cyclone north of the border. This was in Canada earlier this week. This storm intensified Tuesday and reached peak strength on Wednesday. Yes, we're talking about an extratropical cyclone. Now look at this thing. This was about the most beautiful thing we had going on satellite this week. This is classic. It looks like an apostrophe or a number 9 there. You can see it's pretty much a closed low. Well, this storm actually bombed out, dropping to 980 millibars before weakening on Thursday. Now, this is rare for this type of storm to appear in the northern hemisphere in the heart of the summer. Typically, we see something like this in the lower 48 states during fall through spring, and it produces snow, wind, and flooding. So pretty strange.
A dangerous new substance is hitting the United States illegal drug market, and it is a drug that is so dangerous that both the users and the responders are put at risk by simply touching the drug.
This stuff is called carfentanil, and it is 10,000 times more powerful than heroin and morphine, and 100 times more powerful than fentanyl.
Holy smokes. Now, one district attorney's office is issuing a widespread warning. Stephanie Salavantis is the DA of Lucerne County in Pennsylvania. The county sounding the alarm on this dangerous drug. How widespread is it, Stephanie? Is this becoming an epidemic that parents need to worry about?
We haven't seen it in Luzerne County, and based on the information I have received, we have not seen it in Pennsylvania. But the information that is being spread through the Pennsylvania Department of Health is that it is outside the borders of western Pennsylvania. It is mainly hitting Ohio right now with about 20 fatalities from this drug. Wow. So it's making its way here.
Sure, and the problem is and this really is the early warning of this new thing for parents and everybody else to be on the lookout for. It spreads because kids are being told this is going to be the higher of your life. But Stephanie, the thing about this stuff is, this is the tranquilizer they use for bears or elephants. And then when you even explain the delivery system, I know you can shoot it up. Do they smoke it? Because I know you can also just rub it on your arm and get a high off that, and that's a problem for first responders.
They could do all of that when taking this drug. But I think the big distinction here and what people should know is that users are buying heroin, and when they buy it they think they're getting pure heroin, but what's actually happening is that heroin is either laced with carfentanil or it may be pure carfentanil, and that is what's causing these overdoses and these deaths.
Stephanie, what is carfentanil?
It is a fentanyl body that is a very, very strong drug. It is used to sedate animals, specifically large animals like elephants, hippos. It is not meant for human ingestion, and that is why it's so dangerous.
Where's this stuff coming from? We knew with the OxyContin problem, right? People are breaking into pharmacies in the middle of the night and stealing OxyContin, chopping it up and snorting or lighting it and melting it down and injecting it that way. Where does this stuff come from?
We're hearing it's coming from China. It's being sold from China and being brought into the United States. I've also been told from U.S. senators that they're finding that it is coming in from the Mexican cartel. So we're hearing a lot of different avenues of where it's coming from, and it may be being produced here in the United States, so we just don't know right now.
Health alert, Katie, in the Valley. A crypto outbreak in Maricopa County, now up to 32 confirmed cases.
Yeah, all of them reported to health officials in the last 6 weeks or so as they try to stop the spread. Affected swimming facilities like Wet n Wild are taking action.
And that's where we find ABC 15's Melissa Blasius live tonight. Melissa, what do we need to know?
Well, first of all, it's pretty easy to test for things like chlorine and pH. You've probably seen one of these kits. You just drop a couple drops in to see what the levels are and if it's safe for swimming. But what big pool operators know is that there's no easy way to test for this crypto that may be lurking in the water.
Wet n Wild trying to dry up concerns about a water-loving parasite that's been making people sick in the valley. This as health officials tell ABC 15 that even properly maintained pools can be contaminated by cryptosporidium.
Even if they were operating under ideal conditions as to what normal operating levels of chlorine and pH and all that, they would still actually have crypto in their pool, and it could be multiplying at that point.
And anyone who ingests that water for up to a week could get seriously sick to their stomach. County inspectors say they've asked operators of 4 pools in the valley to go through a special superchlorination cycle to make sure they wipe out the parasite.
They don't want people getting sick, so the pools that we've talked to have all been cooperating and saying sure, and then they shut down for a day or whatever, how long it takes to go through the process.
Which is why health officials say it's important to shower before swimming and not swim at all for 2 weeks after a bout of diarrhea.
Don't do things that could jeopardize the general public.
And here's what we're hearing from Wet n Wild this afternoon, that they have put up now signs across the park reminding people of safe and healthy swimming practices to try to prevent another crypto outbreak. They also are saying that they are super chlorinating all their pools every week as another precautionary measure, and that here they follow all the CDC and county health regulations. Back to you.
A wave of explosions hit tourist resorts in southern Thailand in a matter of hours, killing at least 3 people and wounding dozens. The upmarket resort of Hua Hin was hit by 2 bombs late on Thursday night, which claimed 1 life and wounded 21 other people. Another 2 blasts in the same town on Friday morning killed another person and wounded 3 more. Tourist areas of Phuket, Phang Nga and Patong were also targeted. 1 Thai man was slightly hurt. 1 other person died and 5 more were wounded in the southern province of Surat Thani. The attacks prompted tighter security in the area, particularly in relation to ferries serving other tourist centres. Police are ruling out international militant groups as the likely perpetrators of the bombings.
We can confirm the blast incidents are far from terrorism acts that occurred in other countries. This is what we call local sabotage because it happened in limited areas in each province.
The attacks came just days after Thailand voted in a referendum to accept a military-backed constitution. It wasn't immediately clear who's behind the bombings or why.
Journalists at the Olympics in Rio has been hit by gunfire on a highway between venues. No one was seriously hurt. Witnesses say 2 shots were heard while the bus was traveling from the basketball venue to the main Olympic Park. Windows on the bus shattered and flying glass left 2 people with minor cuts.
And now Germany is planning to propose a ban on a full face veil in the wake of recent terrorist attacks that is, in the country. German Interior Minister Thomas de Maizière is going to propose a number of security measures, including a ban on a burqa and niqab on the full face for women in reaction to growing concerns about acts of terror in the country. Measures will also include boosting police numbers and video surveillance at railway stations and airports. Germany has seen a number of attacks in recent weeks. Daesh claimed responsibility for 2 of the incidents, banning the full face veil as well as revoking laws pertaining to dual nationality is likely to prove highly controversial in the European nation and may run into legal difficulty as well.
More tensions tonight between the U.S., its Pacific allies, and China. New concerns over China's expansion of its claims to islands in the South China Sea. Pentagon producer Lucas Tomlinson has the latest.
New satellite imagery shows China's military buildup in the South China Sea continues despite assurances from China's president last year.
China does not intend to pursue militarization.
But these new photos from a Washington foreign policy group say otherwise. Experts say they show reinforced aircraft hangars capable of housing bombers and fighter jets visible on Fiery Cross, Subi, and Mischief Reef. According to the Pentagon, China has built more than 3,000 acres of artificial islands in the past 2 years. That's about the size of Los Angeles International Airport. The runway at Fiery Cross Reef is 10,000 feet long, one of 3 China has built recently.
These hangars are the smoking gun. You do not build nearly 80 hangars for civilian purposes on these tiny spits of land. They're clearly meant for forward deployment of Chinese Air Force assets. They're holding a gun, but they haven't put the bullet in yet, and they're saying that's not threatening.
China's man-made reefs are part of the Spratly Islands, disputed territory claimed by China, the Philippines, Vietnam, and others in the region, where some $5 trillion in goods and natural resources transit each year. Last month, an international tribunal at The Hague found China's claims to the islands had no legal basis. China responded by launching armed bombers and fighter jets to fly over the area. Admiral Harry Harris, head of all military forces in the Pacific, says China is building a, quote, Great Wall of Sand.
In my opinion, China is clearly militarizing the South China Sea, and you'd have to believe in a flat earth to think otherwise.
Since October, the U.S. Navy has sailed warships close to China's contested islands, what the Pentagon calls freedom of navigation operations. China calls the actions provocative. China's actions in another area have also raised the concerns of an American ally. Japan warned China that it is fraying relations between those 2 countries, both laying claim to islands in the East China Sea. The State Department says these new photos call into question President Xi's intentions. China's activities in the region are expected to come up when President Obama visits China early next month for the start of a G20 summit.
Rome's first ever female mayor, Virginia Raggi, has warned about the imminent health threats uncollected garbage can pose to citizens in the Italian capital. After just 2 months into her mandate, Raggi, who is a member of the anti-establishment Five Star Movement, has come under fire over deteriorating civic services. The criticism against Raggi comes mostly from the centre-left Democratic Party, which is viewed as Italy's biggest political force. Dozens of the party's local administrators, together with the city's other right-wing officials and Lazio authorities, have been arrested in the past few months over alleged bribery, bid rigging, false invoicing, fraud and mafia links.
We have inherited a rather complex situation from previous administrations. The garbage crisis does not only affect our citizens, but also tourists. The traditional party system fears will dismantle their socio-political business network, which is soaked in corruption, and together with the media, they have orchestrated a smear campaign against us.
For years, Rome has been struggling with bad politics and extremely poor administration. For instance, the the capital's waste management system, AMA alone, is in a over €600 million debt. The Romans seem to know well who should be blamed for this situation.
The officials with the city of Rome should be blamed first. We pay lots of taxes but have zero civic services in return. I voted for the Democratic Party for a long time, but I changed my mind at the last elections.
Unions also have to be blamed together with politicians. Where were they when they had to monitor the situation?
Raggi and other members of her team have argued that the centre-left has run Rome for most of the last 40 years, and thus the party is not entitled to attack the Five-Star Movement at this early stage of its mandate. For long, Rome's three main subsidiaries, Acea, an operator in energy and water, AMA, which is responsible for the city's garbage collection, and ATAC, which runs transport systems in the capital, have been criticized for inefficiency, delays and disorganization.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump on fire on the campaign trail, again calling out President Obama and Hillary Clinton for their lack of action in the war on terror. Take a listen.
ISIS is honoring President Obama. He is the founder of ISIS. He's the founder of ISIS. Okay? He's the founder. He founded ISIS. And I would say the co-founder would be crooked Hillary Clinton.
So we're going to hear more from Trump in the next hour when he speaks live from Florida. And that is where we find John Roberts. He's live in Miami Beach, where Trump's going to hold that event. John, some new strong words coming from Donald Trump.
Oh, definitely. And we're expecting to hear, Abby, later on today, more strong words about Hillary Clinton, President Obama, and ISIS in the wake of this bombshell report that Kevin Corke just reported on. Not likely to hear that, though, in his speech this morning. It's more of a formal affair to the National Association of Home Builders, where Donald Trump is expected to focus more on the economy than anything else. Last night at a big rally in Sunrise, Florida, just north of here, he held up a graphic, which was actually culled from a graphic that we aired on Fox News, showing that the home ownership level across the United States is at its lowest level in some 50 years. Earlier in the day in Abington, Virginia, in the heart of coal country, he really went after Hillary Clinton on the economy, reminding folks there in very hard-hit coal country what she said earlier this year about coal and wanting to put the coal industry out of business, also hitting her on her email problems. Here's Trump from yesterday in Abington.
Don't forget, when she made the statement, going to put the mines and essentially going to put the mines and miners out of business, going to put them out of business. She was going to West Virginia. She forgot about Virginia, too, in all fairness, you know. She said it was a mistake, that she's going to raise taxes on the middle class. You saw that one? Nah, maybe she misspoke.
So we expect to hear more attacks against Hillary Clinton on the economy this morning. A little bit later on today, he's up in Orlando meeting with faith leaders at a Pastors and Pews event. And then he has got an event in Kissimmee. That's where we're expecting to hear him really go after Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama on the idea of ISIS. If he packs out that place today, Abby, he could put as many as 11,500 people in that rally. That would be big in the central heart of Florida.
Even for Donald Trump, that is huge. All right, well, John, the story that a lot of people are still talking about this week, the father of the Orlando shooter attending one of Hillary Clinton's rallies. Donald Trump still talking about this as well.
Yeah, and this was in Kissimmee a couple of days ago where, as I mentioned, Trump is going. He waited until he got to Florida to really hit her hard on that, pointing out that Sadiq Mateen, who is the father of the Orlando shooter, was sitting there right behind Hillary Clinton at that rally in Kissimmee. Here's what Donald Trump said about that last night at Sunrise.
Wasn't it terrible when the father of the animal that killed the wonderful people in Orlando was sitting with a big smile on his face right behind Hillary Clinton? And of course he likes Hillary, because Hillary won't even say the words radical Islamic terrorism.
Now, clearly, there is a big difference in matter of degree, Abby, but Donald Trump had his own optics problem last night in Sunrise at that rally. Disgraced former Congressman Mark Foley was right behind Donald Trump during his entire rally. So I can imagine that both campaigns are going to pay much more attention to who is sitting behind
You are
the
looking
candidate.
at perhaps the most endangered species of yard sign.
4 signs I had up with Donald Trump was missing.
They tend to be drive-bys. Someone makes a beeline for the Trump sign, grabs it, then jumps in a getaway car. And check out this dainty thief. The most recent theft involved a runner in Hillsdale, New Jersey. She jogged past the house, waited for a car to leave, then came back, picked up the sign and took off. When the video went public, she turned herself in, but the sign owner declined to press charges. Meanwhile, the neighbor's Trump sign was plucked by a masked woman. It could be worse.
Respect my opinion to vote for who I want to.
This artist created a giant T for a yard in Staten Island. In the middle of the night, someone set it on fire, but Donald himself called to commiserate. What's an artist to do? Rebuild.
It's going to be huge!
This house in Indianapolis lost a dozen Trump signs in 3 weeks. We found very few Hillary signs reported stolen. Either her supporters aren't posting them or they're being left alone. In Haverhill, Massachusetts, one of Richard Early's signs was spray-painted "Never" over Trump. He had 9 signs ripped out and tossed in the street.
We're not going to take them down. The signs are staying up.
Some bipartisan tips for protecting your yard signs. A Pennsylvania man slathers roofing tar on the edges. Hard to get off and easy to spread to clothing and car. Another person went and bought a giant jar of Vicks Vapor Rub and smeared it over every inch of the sign. When Hillary for Prison signs disappeared out in the Hamptons, the owner reinstalled them on 12-foot poles with surveillance cameras and electric fencing. It may not be easy to steal an election, but an election sign? Ginny Mo, CNN.
Separate cases of apparent road rage this morning being investigated by police really on opposite sides of the country right now. Guns involved in both cases. A woman waving a firearm around right there in that video. And in another, the suspect actually firing shots at a car with a child inside. ABC's Clayton Sandell has the latest.
This morning, police in Gainesville, Florida are looking for this woman, seen wildly waving a gun after an alleged road rage incident moments before. Police say this black truck and silver sedan pulled into a gas station after a run-in on the street. The woman gets out of the truck with the pistol. The truck's driver, Jacob Sylvester, quickly takes it away. He is later arrested, but investigators say he refuses to identify the woman with the gun. And on the streets north of Los Angeles, investigators say they're now working to stop the driver of a dark Honda before he does this again. In another apparent case of road rage, he fires twice at the family inside this white SUV, including a child.
The driver shot at her, armed with unknown type of black handgun.
The suspect enraged, police say, because the SUV apparently sprayed his car with windshield wiper fluid.
The level that this incident took was quite alarming to us, and I couldn't imagine what it would be like in a vehicle and being fired upon just driving with your family members. It had to have been terrifying.
Road rage incidents can quickly take a violent, deadly turn. Since 2010, road rage has been blamed for at least 1,700 deaths nationwide. Police in the latest cases are asking for the public's help to get the suspects off the street and into jail.
We have had some tough days this summer. This is certainly going to rank among the worst of them. So I want everyone to be on alert. Expect very, very hot temperatures and conditions today, tomorrow, Sunday. So it's time for people to really stop, think about what you're doing the next few days, and take precautions. This is a very, very serious situation. Today, the temperature will climb to around 95 degrees, but with the heat index values, those will go up to between 105 and 110. I want to emphasize, heat index values go up to between 105 degrees and 110 degrees in the course of this afternoon. So this is a very rare situation. This, again, is a heat emergency. Use air conditioning, but set it to 78 degrees. Why? Because 78 degrees will keep you cool enough. In terms of health, you'll be fine. But it will also help us protect against power outages and worse, a blackout. And we have to be aware we've got the biggest population this city has ever had in its history, huge demands on our power grid. Last thing any of us wants to go through is a blackout. If you set your air conditioning to 78 degrees, you'll be fine and you'll help protect yourself and everybody else from the danger of a power outage.
The last time we had a an excessive heat warning was July of 2013. It was a 7-day event where the indicators hit 105 degrees. So this is kind of odd. You know, this is out of the ordinary. Like I said, the last one we had was 2013. We've had 2 other heat emergencies this year, but this not to this level. So we really want to stress how important it is to pay attention to what, you know, the warnings that we're giving.
Nominal first stage performance.
T-minus 5 minutes and counting.
There's been another mass shooting in America. This time in a